And you were just telling me it's going to be your birthday pretty soon. When date does your birthday fall?
October 3rd.
October 3rd. And how old are you going to be?
83.
83, and you're still out here
Oh, yes.
marching for peace and struggling for justice.
Marching against war.
Right.
I have never used the term peace.
Right.
I know that other people like to use the word peace now, but I've always been part of the anti-war movement.
Right. So what year did you start in the anti-war movement?
Oh. I used to go to the May Day rallies at Union Square in New York.
Wow.
I remember my first chants were Free Tom Mooney and the Scottsboro Boys.
Wow.
And then a year after that was Hands Off Ethiopia.
What year was this?
1935.
Wow.
And I can remember my father getting ready for the bonus march in Washington, D.C. I remember he packed away his soldier's cot because he was planning to sleep down. So.
And the bonus march ended up getting beaten, burned out by MacArthur, Patton,
and,
all of them.
Yeah.
Hoover gave the order.
And Eisenhower.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was pretty horrific. People should know that as part of history.
Yes. And they don't have a clue.
And the bonus marches never got their bonus. Never did.
Oh, no. And imagine these were people who were in World War I, and they had a bonus coming to them for the year 1945. And the Depression hit in 1929-30, and they wanted to get their bonus early, and that's why they went to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they treated the soldiers that way, can you imagine how they treated the rest of us?
Right.
Yeah.
You know. And so, from the 1930s, how was the 1940s? How was that struggle?
Well, in the 1940s, just when I became old enough to join the Young Communist League, because you had to be 15 in order to join, they dissolved themselves into the AYD, the American Youth for Democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't stomach them. It just didn't work out. So I went and was active, although never a member, of a left-wing Zionist organization called Hashomer Hatzair, which conducted an uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto in April of 1943. So I spent my war years essentially working with them.
Mm-hmm.
But after all, Zionism was a bourgeois organization, so I never joined. But luckily, I got involved with the most left-wing part of them.
And then through the 40s and all that, and then here comes the 50s and Korea War and American Activities Committee.
Well, I was in Brooklyn College at the time, and when the Korean War started, we had a demonstration around the periphery of Brooklyn College, and there were thousands of us that participated.
Wow.
And most of the people were themselves veterans of the Second World War, who were going to school under the GI Bill of Rights, and in fact, in some of my classes, there were only 2 women because the GIs were there en masse.
So how did the people treat the protesters back in the day? How was the response?
It was there was no problem with protesters. You know, in fact, I remember other protests against the newspaper at Brooklyn College, which had some bad articles in it. I don't even remember what the gist of them was. But we went to the office of the president of the college and protested there. So, you know, it was amazing to me. There was a mass protest movement, you know, and one wonders. Now, I didn't take a direct part in the civil rights movement in the South, but my husband and I protested in the North. We were living in Youngstown, Ohio, and we had, I remember, a couple of high school kids who had their parents' permission to be there in the middle of the school day. And I remember a couple of lawyers came over, and they were told, my mother said it's more important for me to be here today than to be in school. And we had, I remember, this sign, in the South, Negroes can't be served. In the North, Negroes can't serve you. And that's the way it was in Youngstown. In the early 1960s, people were black in the cooking the food, but there were no waitresses or waiters serving the food. They were all in the kitchen, behind the scenes, but not serving the public. And I remember Ted got his picture in Ebony magazine. He and a young girl had signs, Jim Crow must go. Yeah.
So how was Un-American Activities? Michelle Bachmann wants to revive the hearings, see if you're anti-American or American values. So what do you think about that horror story and that part of our dirty little secret in America's history?
Well, Ted sent away for his file under the Freedom of America for Americans Act. They never sent it to him.
Right.
Because, I mean, it was volumes.
I imagine.
Volumes. Because he started really early on, in his 20s, you know.
So that takes us up to the 70s. That's when I met you and Ted. Back in the 70s, around mid-70s, around 75, 76. You know, somewhere. Because I used to march with Ted and you from the federal building, the courthouse. And
yeah.
Ted was a powerful man.
Well, he was a steel worker.
Right.
And for many years, he was a licensed steam engineer, but they would work 3 different shifts in 1 week, and he couldn't take that. So after a number of years, he bid onto a job which paid less, but which was steady daylight work, and that was to repair the steam engines, and that's what he did for many years.
Wow.
He repaired the ones that he used to operate before. And you didn't need a license for that.
Right.
But he renewed his license every year. Anyway.
What year was Ted born?
1906.
Oh my God.
August 12th, 1906.
And how old was he when he passed?
96 and a half. Yeah.
My God.
In 2003, which was 8 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ted taught me a lot about history and about opened my eyes up to a lot of things.
Yes.
When I was younger.
Yes.
You know.
I learned a lot of things from him too, but the reason that Ted and I were able to get together and find each other all together was because I already had a background in the left movement. And so that worked out very well for us. When I stop and think about it, Ted was a graduate of the University of Minnesota 3 months before I was born.
Wow. Yeah.
But we were married and lived together for 44 years.
Wow.
Which today is a
Impossible.
lifetime.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, you don't hear about very rarely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're out here today in 2011. You know, having a vigil against the war.